السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. قال رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Today, inshallah ta'ala, we will try to start our second surah in Quran, Surah Baqara. This is a Madani surah. Before we go into the actual explanation and translation, I would just give a very brief introduction of this surah and what is the most emphasis, and also 5 main points that one should understand if they want to have full benefit from the explanation of Quran. Number 1 point is that Quran has to be understood, explained in the light of Muhammadur Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Allah has said that Rasulullah is Siraj Munira. So whenever we read Quran, the teacher, the guide, and our father, spiritual father, Muhammadur Rasulullah, we have to consult him, and he is being consulted by the books of Ahadith. And then we can give a best explanation, and it will keep us on the right path. Number 2 is the whole emphasis of Quran is to understand Tawheed, and the opposite of Tawheed is Shirk. So if you read the whole Quran and you are unable to really distinguish between Tawheed and Shirk, then you need to keep it, reading, and keep it talking to different people and trying to clear your conception in Quran. Because Tawheed is the main essence of this book, oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this oneness includes that we need to worship Him, we need to call Him for everything, and we need to make sure that we don't give the status of Him to anyone else. Meaning, don't give the status of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to anyone else. Number 3 point is that Quran wants us not to understand Tawheed, but to establish this Tawheed on oneself, and also then join in a group to establish this Tawheed on the land of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This land belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we as a Muslim have to make sure that we first establish complete order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on our life, and then we need to expand this horizon and establish it on family, then in the city you live, and then in the country you live, and then the whole world. And it doesn't matter establish or not, because establishing it outside your domain is not in your control, it is in the control of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but you just have to strive. So in this I give 2 examples, that Tawheed Shakhsi, which is the example Quran gives, is Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam, which has shown us that he has cleared all the examination that Allah has given him, and he is the best example of establishing Tawheed on oneself. But the most difficult task that Allah gave to any of his Rasul is Muhammadur Rasulullah, that Muhammadur Rasulullah has given this task, that he is the Rasul for whole mankind, and he has given this task that this Tawheed has to be in a group, or ijtima'i Tawheed, and it needs to be practiced in a way. So the Quran that has been given has to be established on land according to what we call the laws of Sharia. Then number 4 is that Quran wants you to be muttaqi. That means you have to make sure that you, when you profess your kalma and you have iman, then this iman has to be an iman of conviction, and you should fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that it should be feared. Meaning you should make sure that you know Allah is watching you every second of your life. Allah is in control of everything around you. Allah is in control of everything that you can think of. So you have to realize that and act accordingly. And the last is that the 3 aqaid that we have discussed, that has been mentioned in Surah Fatiha, these 3 aqaid will keep on coming during the whole lessons of Quran. That number 1 is Iman Billah, Iman bil Risala, and then Iman bil Akhirah. And if your Aqidah Akhirah has any problem, then your deeds will be affected. So you have to have a very firm belief on Aqidah Akhirah that will keep your deeds pure, and that will keep your deeds in a way that what Allah wants, and it will keep your deeds the way that Rasulullah wants us to do. We also will gonna mention in this book, then when we go through, that there are universal truth that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed. Those universal truth will stand for anyone, any nation, all the time. If you do this, like fire will burn, the fire will burn. This universal truth can be changed only by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like He changed it for Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam. But the truth, what Allah is mentioning in Qur'an, when it comes, we will mention about it, and we need to learn a lesson from it. As far as the main idea of Surah Baqara is concerned, the main idea of Surah Baqara is mulaqu rabbihim. That you have to nail in your brain that you will meet one day Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I gave an example that this Qur'an is a message from Allah to you, direct message. So you can write on this Qur'an your name, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent this message to so and so. Write your name. And this is one-to-one message. Allah has given this Qur'an to Rasulullah, and Rasulullah has given this Qur'an to the whole Ummah, and now we as a Muslim has obligation to know what Allah wants from us. This is a direct message. Same way, this is one-to-one relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we have to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala one-to-one when we exit from this world. So this is the main idea of Surah Baqarah. And you will see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is given examples after examples after example that people who were prior to us, the most favored nation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Bani Israel, they has falsified the kalima first, and then they were not prepared to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when they were not prepared to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they started inventing things, and then they said things that our hearts are covered, or even if we go to hellfire, we'll go for a few days, which is all tilka amaniya that Allah says in Surah Baqarah. Also, this surah's idea is to make sure that there should be taqwa in you, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to be muttaqi. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will discuss in this surah all the Sharia laws, and in those Sharia laws, or how you have to interact among each other, you have to practice and show taqwa, and that will make your interaction pure, interaction good, and it will make Allah happy. Also, whenever there is a Nabi, and the Nabi wants to establish the truth on the land, then there will always be people against the Nabi. Same thing happened to our beloved Prophet Muhammad Rasulullah. When he wants to establish the truth on the land, there are people who turn against him. So three kinds of people Allah mentioned in Surah Baqarah. One who were truly sincere to Muhammad Rasulullah, one who were just saying they are Muslims but they are not truly Muslims. So Allah says, meaning they are called munafiqeen. And then the third one is that who totally reject the message of our beloved Prophet, and they become kafir. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also give step by step tawheed in the whole surah, and this tawheed, as I said, will be the essence of the whole Quran. And when it comes, we will mention it, that this is what tawheed is. When Allah's names come, that this only belong to Allah. This is all that Allah can do. Then Allah will give us a very detailed explanation of a nation who was most favored before, and the mistakes that they have made, and we as Muslims should learn from those mistakes. And then Allah gave an example of our beloved Prophet Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam, how he passed all the tests, and why he's called that he is the father of the religion. But the most important point of the religion is that he was wama kana minal mushrikin. He was the true believer and he was not a mushrik. And that is the most important message. That is the certificate that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam, who has established Tawheed 100% on him and on his family. And then this is the main difference that we as a Muslim says, that the religion of Ibrahim alayhi salam is La ilaha illallah. And then as we go on, we'll discuss all the Sharia laws. In the last part of this surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given a gift to the ummah of Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which is the last two ayah of Surah Baqara. And that gift is such that if we recite those last two ayah during the day and during the night, it is, Rasulullah said, it will suffice for you to have everything. So inshallah we will start the Surah Baqarah and we will go word by word, and then we will be more emphasis on the concept of what Allah wants than actually emphasizing more on wordly or grammatical translation. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.